Hey,
And guess
how's
who we
it?
got back with us, y'all?
Hello, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I
Our
missed
potty
y'all
mouth
last week.
resident heckler.
You know, right? I did miss y'all. I
We missed you too.
missed y'all last week. I was like, man, I woke
My
up,
boomerang
you know,
wasn't here with us, but she back now.
I know, because I woke up in a stupor. I wasn't feeling good. And then when I woke up, I was like, wait, what time is it? What day is it? And yeah, it was one of those. So I
Oh,
did miss y'all though.
I'm so glad
Yes,
you're feeling better.
yes, we did miss you as well.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
We held it down though. I gotta give me and Sean credit. Like clearly we could not replace you because you are the in-house heckler, but I feel like we had it. We got a little serious. We did not talk about the DEIA because that's your thing. So we was trying to leave space for you to come through with it. But we talked, we mentioned it and still had some good conversation, got some good comments and
Well,
some feedback from the peoples.
it's funny you say that because did you see what happened at NBC?
No,
Do
what happened?
tell, catch us up on all the
Well,
things.
NBC has really gotten rid of all their DEI hostesses.
I saw something about that, but I
Like
wasn't sure to the
all
full
the
extent
people
what was
that
happening.
all the people that were let go had full time shows or whatever are minorities. They were women, or and Lester Holt is no longer going to be hosting the news. He's
Really?
now going to retire.
Hmm.
That's what they said, he's going to retire. I just find it odd. I just find it odd the timing. But okay.
I mean, I find it odd that because they got rid of these programs, now they want to get rid of people that's been established and already been there and have shows like that
That's just
doesn't make
insane.
sense.
Joy
Like
Reid.
even if the program was there to bring new people in, when you
Right.
already got established people that were
Right.
there way before that was even a thing, before companies even said, "Hey, let's do this."
Right.
And
Yeah, but this is remember one of the things that I always said is white women are also the casualties of DEI hire,
Oh
and
mhm.
yeah.
quite a few of them were white women. Rachel Maddow, no, yeah, a lot of the shows. Tamron Hall's show also took a hit, but yeah, they got rid of them,
Wow.
and I'm just like, So shaking up the
Wow.
normal.
Well, I mean, they got enough money; they can get together and start their own network for real.
Yeah, but that's I don't know. It's just something because um we know that diversity does change the products because remember Tamara Brown, she has a line at Target and things like that. And it's hard for us to kind of get into mainstream places. And so the diversity, equity, inclusion did kind of make it that way. But at the same time, um, you know what else happened with the DEI? The
Do tell.
CDC removed all of their HIV content.
Doctor friend of mine was literally saying it was I don't know if she mentioned the HIV, but she was talking about some of the STIs, STDs, and other information literally being removed over the past few weeks. And kind of sharing that on social media. That's a little insane to me. Let me go backwards real quick because I listen. Here's what I feel about the Target thing and the whole Tabitha Brown thing. Now I love me some Tab Brown. She everybody internet aunties. That's all beautiful. I want to be very clear when I say this though. Don't give a fuck about Tabitha Brown's line. And I'm saying it that way to because a lot of people were saying, well, let's go in and be selective. What the fuck? What selective are you being? Because if you're going in and buying her stuff or the other lady that has the lip care line, I believe it's another
Right.
black woman in there, and all these things, I love us, right? And I would rather go to their website or go, wherever and purchase it from them. But what I'm not going to do is walk in the store to be selective because the store's still making that money. And what I was trying to explain to people, can y'all tell I'm a little bit passionate about this? Because what I was also trying to explain to people was this.
Right.
If they don't want her shit in there, it don't matter how many of us selectively go buy her stuff or anybody else's stuff. They still can say, we're going to mark it down because it's not selling. They still can say, we're going to discount it. Guess what? If they want to be real fucked up about it, they might start damaging some stuff accidentally as a reason to dump it on the clearance aisle or hide it in the back of the store or whatever the case may be, just so they can prove their point of it's not selling well. Oh, unfortunately, we're going to have to cancel your contract. Listen, us selectively buying ain't going to help her. It's going to help them. And so when people were getting mad, first of all, I'm not going into Target. That is what it is. And if I was, it wasn't going to be to selectively buy anything other than what made sense for my budget and what I needed for my household, because I will not base my household on helping one person keep their product line in the store.
Right.
That's not to me about the Black community. That's about we're putting someone else on a throne or a pedestal, and we want to see them do well. First of all, she gonna be all right whether her line is in Target or not. What are you going to be able to do to sustain yourself is what I'm asking people. And so that really has bothered me. And this is why I didn't want to talk about it last week until you came back, because I know you have a different perspective, being a government employee, being a veteran, that also needs to be a part of this conversation. But just from the shopping portion of it or the consumer portion of it, I wish people really understood. I'm all for the 28th. And if you want to do that one day boycott on all these different stores, great. But what are you doing beyond this day? Because that one day is not enough to hurt these fucking billionaires where it really counts, in their pocket. This has to be sustained. As somebody was making points before in different posts on social media, the bus boycott was not a day. It was not a month. It was long term. They had to plan. They had to strategize, and they had to hold it down no matter how uncomfortable it got. Now, if people want to talk to me about that, I'm game. You want to talk about growing some food together and how we can barter and exchange? Let's have a whole conversation. But I'm really just frustrated with people thinking that Aunt Tab or whoever the other lady is the voice of this movement. They are not fucking the voice of the movement. They are just people that happen to be caught in the crossfire because they had items in the retail store. But it is so much bigger than just selective buying to keep their line on the shelf, which is probably not going to happen. And I think I heard something yesterday where it started being removed.
Right. I wasn't saying that about keeping her stuff on there. I was saying that's what was said, right? But I had already noticed that Taraji's stuff at one time when she first got in there, she had a hairline product, a hair care product line, and it was in a prominent position when it first started, and it had nice signage and everything. But I couldn't seem to find it. And so I'm just like,
people been saying that.
Right. And so the thing is that you're right. It's not about selective. It's about keeping our dollars in our neighborhood.
No, and that is true.
But at the same time, damn it, we got to do better, because we got Black business owners that'll treat the white customers better than they do the Black customers. They nasty to us when we come in there. And it's like, well, bitch, you ain't really made it. We really your main customers. But when you see them, you want to act new and shit and run and fall over yourself to get them and all of that stuff. That happened to me at Milk and Honey. And I was like, oh, I like that. It's a restaurant. And I was like, oh, I'm out of there. I'm not doing that no more. And it was a location in Atlanta, but do you know I don't go to no Milk and Honey because of what happened to me at that Atlanta one. Because when that white man came, I had been standing there. When that white man came, she acted like I hadn't been there.
I don't do that.
I feel you. No, I mean, and that's so it's a twofold problem, because we do have to get over the misnomers, and the misinformation and everything like that. When it's like, oh, Black people don't tip, oh, Black people don't like to spend money, oh, Black people always want to hook up.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, as a people, we gotta get past that first of all, because I mean, hell, you out here buying Gucci and Chanel,
Right?
not a problem, but then you won't spend that money in your own community, and that's what's
Facts.
causing the problem. You know, so you show up with all your gear on, and you know your outfit is worth five
Yep.
thousand dollars. Your bag is worth $1,400, but then you don't want to leave no tip when you eating out at a restaurant.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I
And
don't I
Jason,
don't tip for
they
bad
said,
service now. I do not tip for bad service. I
no,
tip for good service.
no, no,
I
no.
tip. But you know the other thing
That's
is I
that's the wrong
also hold
process.
on, hold on.
Thought process.
I also say something when I have bad service. I'm
That's
calling
the
management. I'm not asking for
wrong.
no discount, but I'm gonna tip according to the service I receive.
And that's what I'm saying. You tip according to service. If you got bad service, you leave 10%. You get good service, that's 15% and up, depending on how you feel.
Right.
And that's just that. But don't just not tip.
taught a little differently. So how I was raised with tipping and taught with tipping was I start high. I started like 20-30%, right? And then based on how you engage, based on how you treat me, how the experience is, it's either gonna stay there, possibly even go a little higher, and it damn sure is gonna go lower. I don't even give 10% if it's bad. And I'll give you an example. So I was in the airport in Atlanta maybe 2 months ago on Delta, and I had I had gotten one of the guys to help me with my bags, right? Y'all, this was a whole shit show. So he was helping me get my bags because I was getting on a transferring flight back home, a connecting flight back home. He cussed, yelled at people. And this particular day, I used the wheelchair service, which is why he was helping me because my back was hurting. He was using me as a battering ram and damn near running me into. Yes, it was a black male. He had to have been in his, I want to guess generously and compassionately and say 50s, but he looked older. I don't even think he was that old, or he might have been in his 40s. He had no teeth. You could tell he had a hard life. As the old people used to say, rode hard and put up wet, right? So he just had a nasty attitude, like pointing people out, them fucking gang bangers, them niggas. And I was like, what the? I'm literally confused. Like, hold up. You at work, right? Am I missing something? So we get to the gate. He literally made this statement. This is verbatim. I don't respect nobody but myself, my pastor, and his wife. First of all, sir. Yep.
So he was an Uncle
Get
Ruckus.
the whole fact. Get to the gate, and I started not to tip him at all. And I said, no, always leave something, because that's how I was taught. Always leave something, even if it's a penny, so that they understand, no, baby, I didn't forget you. You were just that horrible. And if
Right.
the opportunity presents itself, I'll tell you why I gave you that. So he put me on the spot because I was trying to just be like, okay, let me take him to the side and talk to him. But he put me on the spot in the middle of the gate area and was, we do accept tips. Oh, since you want to do it right here, let me give you this dollar. We can have this conversation. So he walks a few steps away, looks at it, brings it back. I don't need this, and almost throws it at me. I said, what we not gonna do is that. So since you want to be loud and bitch and ratchet in front of everybody, I'll have this conversation out loud with you. I said, you fucking suck. You're disrespectful, you're ignorant, and you sound like an ass. You say you're Christian, you displayed everything else but being Christian. You say you respect your pastor. I don't even see how you do that, because you didn't respect yourself walking down. When I tell you I laid him out and I filed a complaint. And they saw me like a month later and remembered me, because I sat there until they called the manager and would not get on my plane until they brought the manager to talk to me, because I was like, no, right? I'm going to give it to you equal opportunity. I don't care whether you wanted me or somebody else. If I respect you, I'm going to give you respect. If I don't respect you, you ain't going to get that from me. But I'm going to give it equal opportunity across the board. Now, here's why I'm saying this. What I often talk about in business circles with people, I believe that we struggle with this so much because this is not a conversation that we're often having at home. Now, I grew up watching this, right? I grew up watching my family members that were CEOs and C-suite executives and professionals. I grew up watching my grandmother in the community and running a business for her church and engaging in a professional manner all the time. Customer service was not something that they were teaching me using that label, but they were modeling it all the time so that it became normal for me, right? But what I've realized as I've engaged in business through the years with different people, we don't have those conversations at home like our counterparts often do. We're not taught how to engage in a way that inspires people to want to be gracious to us, important to us, and love on us and mentor us and go the extra mile. We're taught people got to respect us, but we're not taught the reciprocity of it. And people think customer service is limited to business outside. No, it starts in the house. It starts with your family. It starts with your kids. It starts with the people that you see the most, and then it extends outward. And to me, he was an example of our detriment because our people have not felt safe having those conversations all the time. Some families were and some people weren't. But he was a living, breathing example of why I feel like they taught me growing up, you tip something because they need to know, no, you were this bad. And when you can, you have a conversation. And I would have gave him the respect to step to the side had he offered me that respect in return. But I said, oh, you want to show your ass, baby? I can show mine and mine bigger. Like, that's the mindset that it took me to. You know what I'm saying? And, the manager and all of them apologized, and they were all people of color as well. But it just really frustrated me that is what somebody sees and they use it against our whole community. Whereas if a white person does it or a Latino person does it or someone else, it's not the whole Latino community or the whole Jewish community or the whole Asian community or the whole white community. But when one of us acts up, it's our entire community. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, no, it is. That's everything is all classified together because I mean, to be honest, statistically, we actually tip more than the other people.
I
But
believe that.
they always, when you watch movies and see TV shows, they always make it seem like they tip more. So that just perpetuates that negative reputation about us.
Yeah.
And then when there is that one or two instances where you got a party at 6 or 7 and they don't leave no tip because gratuity was added on the check, they blow that up.
You're not gonna force me to daggone tip.
It's all over social media.
Well, and then if you look at it, and, well, Jason, your comment said, I tip big because I worked for Pizza Hut for a year and a half and I've been tipping big ever since. Yeah. It was reinforced for me because I was a bartender in my early 20s when I was like, I guess 21 to 23, something like that. And like I made good money. Now that was back when it was like $2 an hour. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I made good money from just being tipped as the bartender. I got tipped out from the wait staff and from the customers I was fixing drinks for. And that really reinforced for me at that time how important it was to tip. The narrative I don't like is that a business gets to pay their person subpar and then the customer always has the weight of making up the difference. And then you'll see people online like, if you can't afford the tip, you shouldn't be going out. Like,
it's not about that.
I don't say it like that. I mean, because sometimes you might only have a couple of dollars, but you just want to get out and have some fun.
Absolutely.
Because things happen so hard, so you can't afford the tip. But if you get good service and you're going to remember that once you are straight, you're going to come back. And
every time.
What? Because I couldn't tip before, I'm going to leave a little something extra.
Right.
Every time. I have turned around to go back to a restaurant because I thought I didn't tip my server one time. And they were like, are you serious? No lie. I went for lunch. And later that day, I was going through the cash. I had my wallet and I was like, this might be a little too much cash based on what I know I spent. I drove back 30 minutes to go back to that restaurant because I had paid cash for the meal too. And it took, I was like, I don't think I tipped my waitress.
Oh.
And they were like, are you serious? And I was like, yes. Like, I genuinely believe in treating people right? They work hard, they're on their feet, they're dealing with asshole customers and great customers and everything in between. But that being said, like I said, one of my biggest narratives that I try to contribute to in my private conversations is we are educated and we are highly intelligent people. We are not the all shucks, silly little 10-minute scarecrow people that the media tries to portray us to be. But what happens is that narrative is used to divide us as Black men and women, and then we fall into that trap and use it against one another. And then it just perpetuates the cycle. Again, referencing the guy in the airport, I would have loved the opportunity to talk to him on the side. But some of us have not been taught basic respect and self-awareness or self-respect and how that extends to other people. And so when we come across people like that, Black, white, or other, it makes it challenging.
Right.
Now, most people would consider me a pretty cool person. I'm pretty chill. But I got that hot button like anybody,
Everybody does. Everybody does. It's just that some person's buttons are a little bit deeper than others. It's like my buttons aren't as easily pushed as they were when I was in my 20s.
You mean you're not riding out every day, Gypsy?
No, I don't jump out my car at the light no more like I used to. Because they'll cut me off or flip me off if you want to. And when I catch you at the light, I had jumped out my car.
I mean, sometimes.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Right.
Smacking somebody, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And so, yeah, like.
Oh, look, gangster.
I went to captain's mask for that. Beat somebody up at work when I was in the Navy. So I had a temper, but the thing is that we all have our trigger points.
Yeah.
But that's the point. You don't know what a person's trigger point is, and so you really. But what I did learn is I needed to check my trigger point. Like everything doesn't need to be a fight. But at the same time, there's a way to get my point across, but without being enraged.
Yes.
But every now and then I get enraged. But it's usually the people that's closest to you. And that does lead to our topic. Because usually,
let me ask you a question.
It's usually the people that are closest to you that can enrage you to that point.
Yep.
And so when I was thinking about our topic about siblings.
Hold on, wait. Before you go further, just let me say this. Sometimes you can show them how enraged you are just by a simple look. That they be like, oh, snap, I done stepped across the line and I better not say nothing else. Because they probably will put hands on me.
That look has stopped. I got RBF real bad. That look has stopped a lot of things from happening through the years. And it's funny, I took a picture one night. I go back and look at it periodically and I really do laugh at myself. I took a picture one night. It had been just a long day. I was over the shit. It was like everything that could go sideways had went sideways this day. And I was out of town. I finally made it to my hotel. I literally fell out in the bed and was like, and I picked up the phone to call my friend girl and let her know I had made it in. And you know how you open up your camera by accident and I saw my face. I was like, God damn. I saw the little gremlin. I tell people there are two levels to me. I am either going to be the Cabbage Patch, the sweetest person. I will give everything for the people I love, right? Always been that way. You're going to either get that or the gremlin. I don't have an in between because I either love you or I don't, right? Now I'm going to respect you if I can. And there are levels to that too. But I saw it and I snapped a picture and I sent it to her. And she said, I see it in your eyes. Because I had never seen what other people saw, right? And I was smiling in the picture, but you could still see it. Oh yeah,
because it's usually in the eyes. Is that? But people don't understand that. You can tell. You can tell people that are okay, for lack of a better word, crazy by looking at their eyes. Like for real, crazy is in the eyes. Crazy is in the eyes. Like if you look at somebody in the eyes. You can see the little nut in there. And you be like,
They
Yeah.
like this. What's the old saying? People like to play crazy till they meet crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yep.
agree with you. I think that people really, what I used to grow up hearing is some people know how to sell wool tickets until they meet the wool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's a
I
whole
believe that
thing.
people,
So
huh?
my sister is very quiet. She's
Uh,
typically
which
quiet.
one?
Who's that?
Suzette.
She's
What you
typically
say,
very
Sean?
quiet.
I
Mm,
said that's an old saying. Selling wolf tickets. That's a old.
yes, wolf tickets. Yep.
That's
But
a old.
People like to
that's
sell
what I'm
wool tickets
saying.
till they meet the
My
wool.
sister was very quiet, but she too has one of them switches, and you could see it. It actually, the reason she doesn't get mad is because when she get mad,
Mm-hmm. That's it. It's
there,
over.
That's
like
why I cry.
she may catch a case, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why she doesn't get mad. I've seen her that mad one time. One
Jen
time.
said, oops, upside the head, 27
Yep.
years in ophthalmology. That's true. I did not know you were in ophthalmology, Jen. Okay. And then I could see
Mm-hmm.
batshit crazy with one look now. Listen, real talk, I think that you got to watch out for the people that cry.
Right. When they get
When I'm
that mad,
laughing, I'm good. When I cry, that's when you got to worry. Because it's like I have no other way to get that energy out, and it's trying to come out fast enough to relieve that valve. That's why I get quiet. I stop talking. Retired eye doc here. That's why I love you, girl. Jen,
Oh,
you be coming
see?
with it.
Yep, I told you, see, in the eyes. It showed
Yes.
it.
But I believe you got to watch out for the criers. It's the quiet people and the people that cry.
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
Because they
I'm
will
gonna
set
tell you
fire to
something.
everything before you blink.
As Jen, it's a darkness that comes over people's eyes that have that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a certain look. You can see
It's
it.
a certain look. You can see it because they can, like you said, be smiling,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a certain look that'll let you know I may have to kill this bastard.
Trust.
Because yeah, because they look like they really have no. They're like soulless eyes. That's what they call it. They soulless.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to scare the people and have them thinking we're a bunch of psychos. So let's relate this back. let's relate this back to the siblings. So I don't have siblings. I'm a singleton, right? I feel like that definitely informs why I have such an extreme, right? So I grew up around boy cousins for the most part when I was younger. And I had to be tough. Like all of my boy cousins were 6 feet and above. So I was getting tossed and beat down over furniture because we grew up watching WWF and WCW, like Ric Flair, Undertaker,
Junkyard Dog.
Randy Savage. Like we grew up watching the real, okay?
Right.
So, I remember them picking me up, twirling me around, plop, and dropping me on the floor like it was funny. I got to come back up swinging. Like I got to take you down at the knees, right? So I think that informs my extreme. That I don't have the middle gray. It's either this or this, right? And because I didn't I had the moments with them, but a lot of the time I was existing as a singleton, so I didn't have to share. Now the crazy part is I'm extremely generous. Like that, they made sure they poured that into me. I'm a giver, I'm generous, but I'm still very selfish too, Whereas I meet people with siblings, y'all a whole different breed. I'd be like, damn.
I'm a middle child, and so yeah, I'm really I have a complicated relationship with my siblings.
Okay.
Both of them. Because there's 8 years between me and my brother and 5 years between me and my sister. And yeah, we have a complicated relationship because as a middle child, I wasn't the first one to do nothing, so it was not new and novel when I did it. And I wasn't the baby, so nobody made a big deal about it when I did it. And oftentimes I was forgotten. So, yeah.
Jen said, we know who's going to the psych ward that way. I bet. A supervisor once said I was too quiet. I said, just think of a quiet storm. Hey, Jennifer. We got Jen and Jen tonight. So let me ask you, Gypsy, because I I think that the birth order really does make a difference in personality, right? I
Yes.
don't think that they're set in stone. It's still individual and cultural and community and all the things, but that middle child seemed like y'all be getting hell because it's like you said, you're right in the middle. You're not the first,
Right.
so you get a little bit of grace, but you're not the baby, and the baby seems to always get the grace. A lot of the time, the parents are old; they don't give a fuck no more, or they've just been through it all, seen it all. They like whatever. You ain't dead, you lived, ain't you? On to the next. But that middle child seems to be the one where what I've seen a lot of the times, the first child they're trying so hard to get it right. That middle child, they're frustrated and pissed off because they don't went through all the hell the first one then gave them. It's like y'all catch the brunt of it a lot of times.
We're often overlooked, though.
Mm.
Like, truthfully, we're often overlooked. And yeah, it's just not, I don't know. It's kind of like you're forgotten. And so if you notice, a lot of times all your friends that are middle children, they seem to be the life of the party, but they're really not. A lot of times it's overcompensating outside of the house because you're overlooked inside the house.
Yeah.
That is understandable. I feel. I mean, I didn't experience that, because I'm the baby. So,
Of course you are.
but at the same time, growing up, it was just my sister and myself. So I have an older sister by my mother, and when we were kids, we fought like cats and dogs, like every day, but couldn't nobody mess with us. You couldn't mess with my sister, and you couldn't mess with me because you had to deal with both of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The fights was in between us.
Mm.
But anything like, even if we was in the middle of a fight and somebody came in and like, oh, let me help you. Oh, what? And then you had to deal with both of us. So but I love my sister to death because that. I mean, growing up, we had to rely on
Right.
each other. That's
Mm-hmm.
all we had. That's all we do. There was times when I knew she was on her way home and catched up, busting off in the neighborhood. So I had to go out there and make sure she was straight because I'm gonna lay you out before anything happened to my sister. You know what I'm saying? So but then as I got older, I met my siblings by my father. Now I haven't met all of them because he was a Rolling Stone. So it's a lot out there I don't even know.
Okay.
I do know
Oh.
a few of them. Now I'm
Mm.
closest with
What's
my older brother from my father. I'm closest with him. Then I'm also close with my younger brother by my father. He's a couple years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's why I have a complicated relationship with my sister. Fucking tattletales.
I understand because for me it would I didn't understand it until I got older that there are siblings out there that they just hate each other, and
Oh.
I'm just like, how can you hate? That's your like
Well,
y'all didn't grow up
no,
together, and they were like,
they
no.
don't hate each other. They have a complicated relationship, and I'm gonna tell you why. Like, when I say a
Mm.
complicated relationship, I let me be a little transparent here. Now, my
Mm.
sister, Sean, you remember my sister always had real long, pretty hair, and she was the baby. Um, so there was like a little bit of jealousy there. There was a little bit of jealousy there, and then because it was like I was forgotten when she came along. And then with my brother, it was a bit of a resentment because he was so damn smart and stuff. And he set the bar so high. I felt like I was always chasing his shadow.
That's
But nothing I did was ever good enough to get that same accolade. Because my brother was, like I said, he was super smart. He graduated at 16. When he came back to the States, there was nothing left for him to take. We were in, he was supposed to be in the 10th grade. The 10th grade classes overseas were actually college level courses.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, how do you compete with that?
I think I understand that.
So there was a bit of a resentment, and then there was a bit of acting out and being, over the top, for lack of a better word. And it was just like never really quite fitting in. So it's bad enough to be considered a foreigner, because I mean, I had like a weird accent when we came back from overseas and stuff like that. But then you're also competing in the house. And so I don't think siblings actually hate each other as much as they resent the fact that, let's just face it, whether you are one of one or one of five, your parents are different from who they were with each subsequent child. Even when you're the first child, they're different from who they were before they had children.
Yeah.
Right? So, and it's hard to realize that you have a different set of parents. Every child in the family has a different set of parents. And so the relationship the relationship with the parent though is different.
It's different. Yeah. When I was going to say, and even if you grow up in the same household, because some people don't get the chance to grow up in the same household, even if you're twins or triplets or whatever, everybody is still going to have a different experience in the household based on personality and a myriad of other things and how they engage with that parent. I'm going to catch up on the comments real quick. Jason said, I had a baby too. I told my brother all the time, told on him Sunday, Jason, do better.
Told you. Listen, my sister would blackmail me. I'd pay the blackmail and she would still tell.
The crazy part was your ass was silly enough to keep falling for it. Like, I remember you told us that before, and I laughed then too.
Fool me once, fool me twice.
As I was getting deeper and deeper into the trouble, I needed to kind of look. Maybe she will only up the ante and I pay a little more. No, that just meant she held it a little longer.
And you kept falling for it. Girl, you was silly as hell. Your Destiny Jennifer said, yes, I'm the middle of 5, but I'm the first girl, so my younger sister has the overlook syndrome. I have older child syndrome being first girl, and I'm also spoiled being first girl. I can relate to that slightly. I'm going to share in a minute. Jennifer, you also said, I noticed that the hate because they act the same. So it's like when one finger is pointing, there are 3 pointing back at you.
Yep.
Jason said, that's a good sister. So I think I can relate to pieces of what Jennifer just shared and what you shared, Gypsy, because I had an interesting twist in my childhood, and I was adopted, right, by a family member. And to this day, I'm 45, and I was adopted when I was 8 or 9, I think, give or take. So not quite 40 years ago. To this day, my relationship with my family is not the same. For a few different reasons. One, I was adopted by a family member, and I didn't find this out until I was in my 20s, but there was actually a family meeting that was held. Girl, it was a family meeting that was held to figure out who was going to adopt me. And so I don't quite know whether my aunt adopted me because she really wanted to, or because the duty fell on her because she was the sister and she had the most money. Okay. That's number one. Wow. Number two, My grandmother wanted to keep me, but because she was already getting older and had health issues, the family kind of voted it down and said, no, don't do that. 3, my grandmother left where we were and moved across country to then be a live-in help to my aunt who would later adopt me. So that already created a dynamic that I didn't really understand at that age. She left me to go take care of my cousin, and then I still ended up in the same household with them. And when I got adopted, it was the weirdest thing. I remember being outside across the street playing with the neighborhood kids, and they called me in the house and was like, "Auntie," on the phone. Oh, okay. You want to talk to her? Okay. And I got on the phone, and they said, "You want to come live with us?" And I said, "Okay." I don't. I can't say that I really understood the gravity of what I was agreeing to, right? So we had a family reunion coming up that they do yearly, and it just so happened that it was coming up soon, and that was the plan that was made after I guess they had this family council meeting. So we go to the family reunion, me with my mom and family, and I leave the family reunion with my aunt and her family, and I officially moved with them. And we actually did the official adoption process, went through the court, everything. Um, and so the first month or two I was there was like, it was very peaceful. That was the only time that it was peaceful. And I think that it happened that way because en route back home after the family reunion, we dropped my cousin off with his dad. I'm sorry, his dad's family. And then his dad was stationed at a base. So he wasn't in the house either. It was just me, my grandmother, and my aunt. So I had my grandmother back. And I'm there with my aunt. So she had never had a daughter. I think for that short period of time, she was able to dote on me like the daughter she never had. Because I remember going all the places with her, doing all the things. We would go get lunch together. I went with her to get her hair done. We were in Fairfax, Virginia. I would go into Maryland with her to get her hair done. And we just had this cocoon. And then when my cousin came back from the summer, it was like hell broke loose. And so as you were talking, I was like, I think I can relate to that older child syndrome because I think I was like 8 or 9 and he might have been like 4 or 5. Like he was younger, but he wasn't a baby. I think we didn't understand, and I'm processing this as an adult, trying to think about how the 2 kids felt in the experience. I think we as kids did not understand the gravity of what the adults were feeling. And the adults didn't know how to create a safe environment for us as the kids. So we ended up as enemies. And it was years later, as we got into like me and my 21, 22, and my cousin was like 18. We just happened to be hanging out together one day at the house. And he was like, "Yeah, I hated you." And I was like, "I hated you too. Glad we could voice that." And he shared with me how when we first came back from the family reunion, I moved into his bedroom with him. So we had bunk beds. And then we had to move. And when we moved into the next house, we both got our own rooms. And so he shared that he would put Vaseline on the stairs because I had the top bunk bed. I don't even know how I ended up with the top. I don't know. I don't know if we voted on it or I don't know. But I had the top bunk. But he would put Vaseline on the stairs.
He was trying to take you out of there.
He was trying to clean my top. Do you hear me?
No, but that's the thing. To go from being an only child to all of a sudden you got a sibling.
Well, here's the thing. They said I was the villain. Like this was the narrative that became created and passed through the family because his mom would later tell the story and say, "Well, he just loved you and you were so mean to him. That's why he turned on you." But really it was her. So I had distinct memories that I had to process through to figure out where the truth lied based on what I felt, what he felt, and what she would tell people, right? So I had memories of we would all have family time when everybody was home. Like if she was home from work at a decent time, if her husband, you know, wasn't at base being stationed away, and we were all home, we would have family time, family dinner. There was a park in the neighborhood we'd go to. And I would remember being a child and reaching for her hand, and she would pull her hand away. And then she would hold his hand and walk ahead of me. So she created this dynamic where she pitted us against each other. And then she told my family that it was me. So I went from like an A student. I think I started making C's within months of moving into the house. Within like the first year I was there, I started flunking stuff too. And nobody could figure out, how did this little girl who was so sweet and always smiling and really shy just become this Hellcat? Like, you know what I'm
Right.
So looking back as an adult, I'm like, oh, damn, as you guys were describing, I was like, oh, I think that's part of what I felt was that older child, and he might have felt the baby syndrome, but the adults created the dynamic, right? Because I moved from I would say middle class at that time experience in my grandmother's home with my mom and my grandmother to upper middle class in her home. So we were living in like $1 million neighborhood, and she was driving a Jaguar and like taking us to all this fancy, ritzy stuff, even as kids, right? And she had this image to maintain. So I think that she didn't know how to handle when everybody started trying to figure out, well, where did this kid come from? Because you only had a son. And so then when you have to start answering the question of, well, did you adopt her? Well, who is she? Oh, she's my sister's kid. Well, why do you have your sister's kid? You see what I'm saying? I think that it might have been done in love intentionally. I don't know. But it ended up just being this devastating experience for everybody. Like my grandmother moved heartbroken, like literally left. And it wasn't until years later that I found out, well, why did she leave? Because by the time she left, she wasn't talking to my aunt. And it was just, we could feel it, right? So in my 20s, y'all, this is a fucking telenova. In my 20s, my other aunt ends up telling me my grandmother moved back home because of me. Not because I was bad, but because she was trying to protect me, and my aunt had started taking it out on her. So the abuse that she was giving me, she then directed at my grandmother. Then, long story short, and hopefully this will help somebody for whatever reason I felt led to share.
Right.
Then my aunt ends up disclosing to me, because the other lie that had been told was I had destroyed her marriage. And I could never figure out, like, how did this was, they literally told me this at 11 years old. I had destroyed her marriage. And I couldn't, like, it stuck with me, and I would just try to figure out, well, what did I do? How can I fix it? How can I be better? How can I be a good kid? Well, my other aunt tells me in my 20s, no, her husband left her because he was cheating on her. And so she told you that's why he left the house. Now, I don't know what he told her, but as an adult, would you then turn around and tell a child that, right? And
I think, let me just say this. I think that hurt people. And sometimes they lash out on either somebody that reminds them of that other person, or someone that was a convenient scapegoat and or trigger to say, we would still be together if you hadn't came, because everything was okay until I got you.
Right. And come to find out, he had been cheating for years. But again, whatever he said to her, didn't say to her, and whatever she felt or didn't felt, my point was that as an adult, we have to look at how our actions affect our children, right? Now, in that case, I wasn't her biological child, but I was the child that she had agreed to care for. And so,
and that's, just say this.
Yeah.
It sounds like she was bullied into it, and she was one of those that didn't know how to say no.
I ain't gonna say bully.
No. Then the reason, you want me to tell you why I say that?
Sure.
Because there have been times that I have actually said yes when I wanted to say no, because
Sean,
because it was the person that said it, or like we were in a family meeting or something, and they said, "Well, you're gonna be the one that does da da da," and so
No.
but
I'm
see,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I've never been good at no.
I'm sorry.
I learned how to set boundaries later in life.
I'm sorry.
Like
Well,
recently, like in the last like 5 years, I've learned how to set boundaries, right?
I've been that way my whole life. I will say no quick.
not quite as bad as you, Sean. I think the average person exists in the middle.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Now, that being said, the reason I say no to the bullying, what I knew of her personality as a child and what I knew of her personality as an adult, she was probably the least likely person to really be bullied. She was most of the time the bully.
But if
So,
you want to be seen in a certain light, remember she drove the perfect car, lived in the perfect neighborhood, and so if
sure,
you want to be seen in a certain
God ain't
light,
giving you no grace
no,
on this.
like I'm so serious, Sean.
No, no,
So
no, 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 no. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm gonna break it down for you. She didn't know how to unpack things.
right,
Yeah,
that's
That
what
was
I mean.
she internalized everything and lashed out at people.
yeah.
So she didn't know how to unpack. And then, I mean, to tell a child something like that,
Mhm.
even
Well,
even if you felt that was the case, as an
yeah.
adult, that's still something you don't say to a child.
Very true. And the reason I say I don't think she was bullied, if anything, and then again, this is just me basing it off the pieces of the puzzle that I got through the years. If anything, I would say she probably jumped at the chance because it fit the narrative of her perfection. Oh, she gets to save the child, right? She gets
Right,
to step in and save her niece. She gets to be
right,
the victor or the hero in the
right,
story. Now, there was also another dynamic at play. I was the child that interrupted the plan. So before I was born, her and my mother were best friends. So when I was born, she looked at it as though I had ruined my mom's life, right?
mm,
And so there was that narrative, and that's the narrative that she fed to the rest of the family. And I'll never forget my grandmother's sister, my great aunt years ago. I think I was in my late 20s by the time we had that conversation. She said to me, uh, why don't you come around the family? And I shared things with her as to why I didn't. And she said, we all felt like something was wrong and we just couldn't figure out what it was.
mm.
And because you were such a sweet child and you were this, and then things just changed, and she would say this. And I put on the carpet and I said, and yet none of y'all intervened. Right. So she was the one that everybody borrowed money from, everybody looked up to. So she had that power
She's a
dynamic that
hero.
nobody questioned. Right. So I think it fed her narrative. But my point in sharing all that for context, I think it took an experience that my cousin and I could have had a sibling experience because he was an only child too, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think we could have had a great sibling experience, but the adults in the situation just didn't know how to navigate it. So we ended up being enemies, and it wasn't until we got old enough to process it in a different maturity level that we were able to understand it was never that we had truly hated each other. We were feeding off of what we were being fed. So my point with that is I think a lot of children fall prey to that and victim to that.
Mm-hmm.
The sibling rivalries are fueled by the insecurities and the inadequacies,
Of
whether
the
intentional
adult.
or not, of the adults and of the parents. Because you got parents that are at odds, you got mamas that favor their sons, you got daddies that favor their daughters, and vice versa, mamas that favor the daughters, daddy that favor the sons, etc. And then it puts the
People that
siblings
don't
at
know how to be parents and still just want to be them.
and it puts the siblings at odds and almost destroys the beauty of the relationship that could blossom. And on the flip side of that, you see healthy parents that maybe go to therapy or maybe didn't have quite as much trauma, or they are hell bent on not fucking their children up and having to fix them later, right? And so
But
you have children that have a slightly different experience that have better sibling relationships.
well, I'm just gonna say this, and like I said, remember what I said in the beginning is that you have a different set of parents with each child. But
Absolutely.
what I will say is we don't realize that we mirror the behavior that was instituted
Yeah.
on us, right?
Yeah.
And so while I wasn't intentional, I think I have a closer relationship with the second child than I do with the older one. The older one was with my mom while I was active duty. The second child wasn't even supposed to be here because they told me I couldn't have any more children. And I was actually going in for a hysterectomy because I had endometriosis real bad. And I wound up being pregnant, but I also wound up bleeding my entire pregnancy. So I was on
Mhm.
bed rest. And so I was extra careful and extra. I did things that I didn't do with the older one. Like I breastfed the second one, and I stayed home with him more and for a longer period of time and things like that. So I had a different bond with him, and then he was medically fragile, because he had you know weak lungs, and so he had a breathing machine and stuff like that. So there was a lot of things that were different,
Mhm.
and not on purpose, but at the same time, I also had a child who didn't want to be there because he wanted to be with my mom because that's where
Mhm.
he had been, and that wasn't the agreement. So if you've been shown that there's favoritism among children, sometimes you unknowingly favor children. And again,
Mhm.
if your aunt wanted a daughter, she had a son, but wanted a daughter, but then she didn't know how to fit it into her perfect little world that she had created,
Absolutely.
you know, and you don't know how there might have been some competing things with her and her sister, your mom,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely. There was a
And
lot of hurt there.
right. And so that that's why I hate that it took to the 21st century before Black people to accept that it's okay to be not okay and to go and get therapy,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Because in the 70s and 80s and stuff, nobody talked about that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
you didn't, and it was children are seen and not heard, and no, don't talk about what's going on in this house, outside this house. You can
Yeah.
get punched in the mouth and shit for talking about what's going on in the house. You better
Yeah.
not go to school and tell your counselor shit.
Right.
Like
Let
you,
me catch up on the comments real quick
yeah, because you do
before they
remember
get too far
though.
ahead.
You do remember the iron incident with on Good Times. That was the first time
Oh
anybody talked.
yes.
That was the first time
Yeah.
anybody talked about abuse. And
Yeah.
even still, remember she didn't tell why she had that iron mark on her.
Yeah. Let me catch up on these comments real quick. Jen said, I adopted and raised my niece from 3 months old through 4 brain surgeries, abuse.
Mm.
I feel this. Oh wow.
Oh wow.
She is 30 and fine now, but adoption in court every few months was rough.
Yep.
Uh I think the relative adoptions are something we are going to process our entire lives. Listen,
Yep.
whole
Because
different milkshake.
sometimes they're open secrets with the adults, but
Yeah.
the children involved have no idea. And you know how some people are finding out that they're adopted and that their parents aren't their
Absolutely.
parents? Yeah, that 23andMe shit. When they was going and trying to trace their roots, and then they find out that their parents ain't their parents, and that Aunt so and so that lived in Maine that they thought was Aunt so and so that they only saw, at the family reunions happened to be their mom.
Or somebody in
Somebody
the
they thought
neighborhood.
they were sisters.
Or somebody in the neighborhood.
Right.
Jen said, hurt people, and there's always the one who breaks that generational trauma and BS in his heart attack. That is so freaking true. Jen said, if I had a dollar for all that, but you weren't her real mom. Ooh, that.
Mm.
Yep, the family secret rule is a generational trauma. I think we all also have to consider. I know for me, what was really intense about my experience was the mistruths that were given by my caregiver, right? You know, she was my aunt, she was my mom's sister, and I had grown up loving her. Like, I adored her. She was like a living Barbie doll to me. You know what I'm saying? But going through that experience, I hated her by the time I left. And I'm very literal about that. You know, she had basically beat the shit out of me and taken the joy that I had as a child, right? So this person that I looked up to and adored and just loved had become this villain to me. And I had nobody to express that to, because she had put me in therapy. And guess what? The therapist told her what I said, and she beat the shit out of me for that too, at like 10, 11 years old. And so it's ironic that I ended up going into the profession, because that was not the direction that I ever saw myself going in. I was actually inspired to do it by one of my college professors, just because I saw the difference that he made in people's lives, right? But I had no respect for the counseling position after having gone through that experience. And then my family wasn't safe because she had controlled the narrative for so long that when I would go to the family reunions, I was the child that I would walk in the room and they would stop talking, right? So you know they're talking about you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And she had systematically destroyed the relationship I had with my mom while I was with her. And so she had done everything she possibly could to isolate me and make me the villain in her story. And I was a child trying to process all of that. So then I did start to act out, which became a self-fulfilling prophecy of the lies that she had spread, right? And so it wasn't until my 20s when I was able to speak up for myself and say, that's not even what happened, or no, that's not true, or, you know, and people started to admit that, okay, there were a lot of discrepancies in what had been told before and what they had noticed, and kind of some of the suspect things they were confused about. But you bitches left me in this turmoil, right? And you judged me. And so by that point, I didn't have much respect for them. So it was, and I think a lot of us in our communities grow up with that, where you feel separated from your biological ties and your family, because you are the people that hurt me and left me in pain and didn't save me or rescue me and judged me and talked about me and all these things, and now you want me to love you. Where did they do that at? And I
Right.
think people don't know how to hold space for the complexities of those emotions when we get into our adulthood, and we can try to think through it and process it and vocalize it. And Jen, you said before nurse comes back, Gypsy, I forgot to tell you I love the hair. You gotta tell her, Jen. Look at her preening. Come on, girl. Yeah,
Right.
I love it. But I think we as Black people, sadly, because we have been so focused on protecting ourselves from the outside, the big bad wolf outside, the other people, we became dangerous to ourselves inside our homes and
Right.
inside our communities. And we didn't know how to hold space for all the emotions that so many of us have had as children, as siblings. Um, okay, my dad picked me up by my feet and kicked my head into the headboard. Next day, my ear was hurting, and the nurse asked what happened. Ooh. Mm.
Mm.
And I told her, because I was like, what, your daddy ain't never kicked you?
Oh shit.
And
Because they normalized it. It
yeah,
was normalized. And see, that's the
We
thing.
normalize the trauma.
When trauma becomes normalized,
it is what it is. It's just an everyday thing. You don't think
It
nothing.
could. And then as adults, we still
Happen.
don't know how to hold a space for it.
but then also, you know, when you have trauma that you haven't dealt with,
Mm,
you become a troubled adult that
yeah.
um that basically projects all of your trauma
Exactly.
onto other people. And the thing
Mhm.
is that if you see how somebody acts, you can just about figure out what age they were when they
Yeah.
experienced the trauma. And the
Yeah.
reason I say that is because
Very true.
they are usually stuck at that age emotionally. They act like that like that child. Like there's a few people that I could think of that act like 18-year-olds and 15 and 16-year-old boys and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, it's like they got daddy issues, and you could tell they got daddy issues. They're braggarts, they're bullies, they are narcissistic and controlling, and they seek positions that allow them to be in control of people. Like they want to be popular. They want to be, that's the thing, is you could tell people who need to be popular want to be seen all the time. First of all, I could tell you as a middle child, when you want to be seen outside the house, a lot of times it's because you were invisible inside the house, right? And so,
Oh, yeah.
but there are some people that go to the extreme where they want to be the most powerful person in the room or the smartest person in the room or the whatever, right? And they are really assholes. And they're not
Mm-hmm.
liked. They're not liked. They're only people are afraid of them or afraid of their temper or whatever, or they withhold they hold some sort of power. And that's what makes them appear to be powerful or respected, and they're
Yeah.
neither.
Well, like
Well, hold
picking
on.
up on Jennifer's comment, and then I'm gonna kick it back to you, Sean. Jennifer said that was my norm, and my grandmother told me to never lie. She called days, and that is how my mom got her money from VA years later. She called what? And
Mm,
that's how your mom got her money from VA years later.
because her mom was a veteran.
Hmm. Um, what were you gonna say, Sean?
No, I was just going to say, so
Oh,
you
DC
know,
weddings.
I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. I don't even play one on TV. I did minor in psychology when I was in school,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have learned a few things. And so, well, I'm just gonna. It's just me. This is just me. But fuck that. You a man just like I am. You bleed just like I do. I will fuck you up. That's just me. But anyway, first of all, Gypsy, you are seen, you are heard, you are knowledgeable. Don't ever forget that.
Thank
Jay, your situation just came because whatever occurred between your mom and her before you were born, once you were born, she felt like that took your mom away from her. So
Mm-hmm.
that built something up in her.
Absolutely.
Once the husband left, that just unleashed it.
you. Right.
Absolutely.
And so she didn't know how to handle it. She didn't know how to process it. And she focused it on you instead of doing the right thing and build you up.
Right.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, adults are like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Every day.
I feel you about that because like the situation my sister and myself we grew up in,
Yeah.
my mom was not the most mentally stable person. Now, she really knew how to hide it because I didn't realize until after I went to school, like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
she had issues.
Okay.
Because at that point I learned what those signs were of what she was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So she was a manic depressive narcissist,
Mm.
which is real crazy. So you
Ooh.
know, that's why me and my sister was so tight.
Yeah.
Well,
Mm.
we would take ass whippings for each other. I come home and she like, "Did you do this?" I'm like, "Fuck, I didn't do it." But
My sister would set me up for her ass whooping. Get
and
the hell out of here.
that's fucked up. But we would never intentionally do it because at the end of the day, sometimes after the fact, we talk and be like, "I didn't do it. You didn't do it. Who the fuck?" Then she must have did it. It didn't even realize she did it, and now she take it out on us. So we had to. That's why we were so tight. That's why we were so close. Like
Right.
even to this day, like my sister and I, we are. I mean, there's nothing you could do.
Right.
Be like, yo, she
I was
was.
in your shoes. I was getting ass whoopings that I didn't earn, and I was pissed off about that too, right? Like, but I was the oldest sibling that should have known better and should have stopped him from doing fuck shit. What?
Now,
I earned most of my ass whooping. Now I'm just saying, it was a couple that I took that if she'd have shut the fuck up, I wouldn't have got. But I'm just saying, I earned, man.
You should
I
have been
was bad as hell.
You should have been slicker, more slicker on how you
right? I learned how to lie, and I learned how to lie well. That's why I don't lie as an adult, because I'm like, I'm too good at this shit. So we gonna just not do this, okay? No. Sean, you are seen and heard and valued as well.
Absolutely.
And thank you for reflecting that and holding space. And that's why we do these conversations, right? That's really why we bear ourselves and offer these transparent experiences and conversations, because the hope is it continues to normalize it for other people. Like, I ain't gonna lie, Jennifer, your comment hit me. I felt that in my chest. I had to
absolutely.
I had to just breathe through that one for a minute. But that's the thing. Like, we have to be able to hold space and give witness to people so that they can share and get it out. And what often happens is we don't. We tell people, shut the fuck up, go suck it up, go be quiet, get back to work, figure that shit out. You'll be all right, whatever people are saying. And so we keep choking it down and keep choking it down and keep choking it down until one day it comes out. And this is something I was really adamant about in my childbearing years when I was still open. Because there were times I was like, I ain't having no kids. And other times I said, I'm going to try. But I walked away from relationships before when I was dating someone and we would talk about, okay, the possibility of if we're together, if we have kids, what does that look like? What are your boundaries? I was very strict with my boundaries, right? I don't give a fuck if it's your mama, your brother, your kid, your cat, like, I am strict with my boundaries because of what I went through, right? And I just always had that protective instinct that if I ever had children, I was never going to allow them to be in a situation where they felt unheard or unseen, or felt like they had to let somebody hug them that they didn't feel safe with, or spend time with somebody just because they were a family member. And I have ended relationships when they said, well, if I could see your mama was toxic as fuck, well, my mama gonna babysit them for us. Ain't no way in hell. No. And if you don't have any wiggle room with that, I won't procreate with you. You know what I'm saying? But so often we feel like we can change a person's mind. Or they say that now, but once they hold our baby, they're going to change. No, the fuck they ain't. If they toxic and they can't see it, and if they family toxic and they don't want to admit it, your child going to be exposed to all of that, right? Whether you're together or they co-parenting. Like, we have to choose more intentionally who we procreate with, because this is why a lot of this trauma is still being passed down as well, right?
Exactly.
You got hurt people having babies and forcing them back into trauma. And I ended a relationship because somebody said they would never not let their children go around their family, even though they knew multiple abusers in their family. I said, you done lost your fucking mind. Nope. We can go ahead and dead this conversation right now, because that's the trauma that's been passed down too. We are forced to sit at tables with our abusers. We're forced to sit at tables and smile and hug auntie so-and-so and uncle whoever, right? And the family says, don't tell, because they're worried about the public perception.
Right.
See, you ain't got to worry about that. You got to worry about me, because my kids help me. And I don't care.
I will be up under the fucking jail. Do you hear me?
Exactly.
So this is part of why we have to keep having these conversations too, to keep normalizing. It's okay to go to therapy and work through your trauma. It's okay to go to therapy when life is good. It's okay to put your kids in therapy and them not tell you everything that child is talking about, unless it's something you need to know that's dangerous or detrimental or truly pertinent to the growth, right? It's okay to distance yourself from family that is harmful, because we grew up with that too. You got to respect your elders. Don't matter whether they hurt you and they was an abusive. They still get to come to the Christmas party and Sunday dinner, right? We have normalized that we have to be in trauma to have close proximity. And for me, forgiveness means I let it go, but you ain't got to have access. You know?
I ain't letting shit go on that one. I forgive you in your grave.
So forgiveness for me ain't about them. It's for me to not be imprisoned in that emotional baggage. Well, fuck you, and you don't get access.
I'm gonna forgive you so I can get that shit off my chest. But trust me, you're gonna be dealt with when I forgive you.
Right.
It ain't nothing saying you gotta be in my face for me to forgive you. I can put you 6 feet deep and forgive you and walk away.
With that being said, y'all, I feel like we've gotten enough Macro Bay in for tonight. Let's lighten the mood a little bit.
Absolutely.
Let's lighten the mood a little bit, and let's and change topics. There was a question that was sent in that I felt like we should really give it justice and give it some airtime. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So I forgot to put it in the group. Y'all forgive me.
I'm almost scared.
Here's the question, y'all. Here's the question. Somebody messaged and said, should sex be used as a healing tool?
Hell yeah.
Now y'all know what I say. Get it the fuck in. But I'm saying, what you say, Sean and Gypsy?
Well, I already gave my answer. I said, hell yeah. Okay, so
depends. And I'm going to tell you why I had to sit there and think for a second. It depends because if
wait, Gypsy, Sean was still talking. We got a bad habit of cutting him off, so let's give him the stage.
Go ahead, Sean.
So what I was trying to say was the reason why I said that is because, well, first of all, it depends on where you're at emotionally and mentally, as well as how you feel. Because like for me, if I'm in a relationship and we live together, whether we just boyfriend girlfriend or we married, but we under the same roof, I know that physical connection gives me the power to be like, I can do anything. I can go out here and conquer the world. And so even when something happens emotionally that is going to take me down, making that connection can bring me back up and have me feeling like, okay, it's not that bad like this, because I got to deal with this anyway.
Yeah.
But having that there makes me feel better and I can handle it better mentally. So that's why I give my answer.
I'm gonna give my disclaimer in a minute, but I really want y'all to share. And then Jennifer said, remember baby boy when he hit her and then tried to eat her out as an apology. So yeah, that's some fuck shit. We ain't talking about
nah, but I'm talking about trauma bonding too. Like if you guys if it is like sex to repair a toxic relationship, then I say no.
No, we ain't talking about that.
Yeah, like sex is a healer, like that, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, because that a lot of times that's what keeps people with people they really shouldn't be with, is because the only thing that bonds them together is the sex after the toxic shit that they go through. Like seriously, like
Nah, if you
I'm gonna give some examples from the positive side of it.
Yeah, because if you toxic as hell, and you can have the banging, the most wettest, the off the top, and get butt ass naked, like I'm sorry, I'm gonna be like, nope, leave me alone. Get out of my face.
Damn, is that your word of the day?
Huh?
It depends.
Is that your word of the day today? Because he been saying no a whole lot. What's going on with you?
Y'all know I don't have no problem saying no. I don't have no problem saying no. The best situation to catch me and I say no is try to put me on the spot. Like, oh my God, hey, can you do this for me? Hell no, you should have told me that a half hour ago. We've been here 45 minutes. Now it's 5 minutes until shit's supposed to start, and you gonna come to me? Hell no, you better find somebody else.
He said, fuck that.
Somebody else to do it.
Somebody else to do it. So I say that sex truly can be healing and can be used in the healing process. But here's why. So y'all both already clarified, because no, we ain't talking about no bullshit where you both toxic as hell, you're both traumatized and broken, and you're trying to use it to fix yourself or to stay together. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But I do advocate for sex in the healing journey. I do advocate for sex as a part of your own personal healing experience, whether that includes you to be masturbating, whether that includes you to be exploring your sexuality or your sensuality with yourself and a partner or partners, etc., whatever that may look like. Not my job to judge who you sleeping with. You ain't sleeping with me, not my business. But I do advocate for it to be done in healthy ways. Do it in the ways that make sense for you, that feel safe for you, and that speak to the desires and the needs that you have. And so sex, as an example, can be used in a healthy way in the healing journey For example, when two people are saying, I want to explore, because maybe they've been in committed relationships prior to becoming a unit together, where they didn't feel like they could explore with those previous partners. And now they've got the openness and the safety and the trust and the communication to say, let's try some different positions. Let's get the Kama Sutra. Let's, explore different locations and a little kink and figure out what makes sense for us, right? That's a healthy exploration of your own sexual identity and awareness, your own pleasure, and that you can create with the person that you love or desire to be with, right? Another way that it can be used in a healthy way is, and I want to be very careful how I say this. When you've had someone that has had some type of abuse, when they have done the work in appropriate ways,
Right.
whether that be with their pastor or their therapist or their mentor, whoever, whatever, when they feel like they've done the work in appropriate ways to work past the point of the trauma and get to a healthy space within themselves, and they have a trusted person that, again, they have created safety with and trust with,
Right.
got to have those two things as a foundation. That safe partner or person can help them explore in ways to then get back to a place of being comfortable with sex. Whereas maybe they had been abstinent or celibate for years, or maybe they had been having sexual engagement with a previous person that they were still feeling unsafe, and they were just doing it from the measure of, I got to go along to get along. Once you've worked through that and you're with a person that you feel differently with, you can, again, explore sex as part of your healing experience. Explore different different sensations, different tactile experiences with your sensory input. Explore penetration versus non-penetration. Like, there are different ways for them to navigate that, right? Another spin on that is, when I had my hysterectomy, that was really traumatic, right? Like, it was a 3-week process from me being at the doctor the day before my birthday and going into surgery 3 weeks later. And they only waited that long because we were in a battle with my insurance. Like, they were trying to get me in the same week because there was so much going on. And that was a lot happening all at one time, right? I was dealing with the health stuff. I was dealing with the uncertainty of what was going on. I was dealing with having to prep for surgery. What was it going to look like post-surgery? How was my body going to change? I was dealing with the biological ability to have children being a negotiable thing. And like, there was a lot going on. And my partner at the time really was
indifferent.
No, like, in a beautiful way, truly instrumental.
Oh,
in helping me to heal beyond that. You know what I'm saying? Because he created safe space to help me navigate and talk through all the changes and the fears and everything that was coming up. And he still celebrated my body and adored my body, even as I changed from my 30s into my 40s. Like, he was instrumental in all the changes that I was experiencing, still, like, just worshiping me as a woman and creating that space for me to adore myself, right? And I've heard different experiences from women that did that, and my heart just hurt for them, because I know how powerful it was to have that. You know what I'm saying? And sex was a big part of that. Like, having to figure out with chronic pain how to deal with intimacy, having to figure out, after going through another major car accident and not being able to do things that I might have been used to doing, what did that look like? And having a safe person to navigate that with, I can't even express how instrumental that was for me. And so I am a big advocate for, if you have a safe person in your life, sex can be such a beautiful way to explore yourself. You know what I'm like? Listen, let's just be real for a minute. There are people that choose to be abstinent. There are people that choose to be celibate. More power to you. I have no judgment about that. But for the average person choosing to engage in sex, let's be real for a minute. Not only is it about the orgasm at the end, for most of us anyway, some people are just chasing that. But once you get past that initial immature barrier of it's just got to be about the orgasm at the end, and you understand the true intimacy that comes with whether it's penetrative or not, like we ain't turning that down, okay? Especially once you get like we are in our 40s and 50s, it's like what we done hit our fucking peak. So sex is just a beautiful way, from my opinion, if you're in your healing journey or your spiritual journey, to really be able to add multiple layers to that experience of self-exploration, self-awareness. There's this movie with, I think the actor's name is Richard Thomas, a black guy. He's on that show, Rookie. He's on that show, The Rookie. He plays the lieutenant or something like that. The bald-headed black dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's in this movie from years ago. I'm gonna have to look it up and find it. But it's a little black film.
So
And
it's
this lady says,
the cast, and you said his name is Richard Jones. Richard Jones.
Richard Jones. That's it. Okay, so Richard Jones is in this movie. It's got to be like 15 years or more older. Okay, and it's set in like the Hamptons or something. These black people are having this party, and he's a record producer. It's like the little plot. It's a cute little movie. But anyway, I remember there's a scene, and I just,
Forgiveness?
No. I'm gonna have to look it up. But my point before I forget is he's in this movie, which is why I'm thinking about this movie. There's a scene in this movie with this lady that says, I believe something along the lines of like, God smiles when we have an orgasm because God delights in the joy. Like it's the purest space of existence. You're not quite in your body. You're not fully in spirit because you're still like, it's just this beautiful space where you almost are in the presence of God, right? I think that's true.
Book of Love.
That's not it. Let me look it up and see. That's not it. But let me look it up and see. But anyway, the point was he's in the movie, which is how I was visualizing it. But it's a lady in a scene, and she's talking to this guy, and that's basically what she's saying is like the orgasmic experience of making love with somebody is like being in the presence of divinity, because you transcend all the limitations of your body and all the things, right? And you're just in this free space for a minute. That's why I think that sex truly and intimacy truly can be used in the healing experience. That's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking to it because baby.
Now I feel you, and I just want to say I can't speak from a woman's point of view, but from a man's point of view, fellas, it's a difference between busting a nut and having an orgasm. I'm just letting you know that now.
Right.
You can have it. You can have an orgasm without actually busting a nut. I'm just letting you know. If you are really in touch with yourself sexually, trust me, I guess to your point, Jay, is more about the journey instead of the destination.
Facts, all facts, all facts. I think a lot of people don't see the value in it because they're chasing the orgasm instead of being immersed in the experience. And think about that. That's literally one of the most intimate ways that you can connect with a human being.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it's penetrative or not, sex and intimacy, kissing, that part of the engagement with another person is one of the most intimate ways that you can connect. And so it's really about transparency. It's if you're choosing the right person, it's about authenticity. It's about growth. It's about love. It's about communication, because you got to be able to engage to really teach a person your body. You got to learn your body in order to really be able to teach another person your body. And I advocate for that. Before you look for sex to be healing with someone else, you got to first be able to discover and explore with yourself in order to be able to tell them what you like and what you don't, and then create the safety to explore that together and go even further, and vice versa. And so I think that sex is just, when you have 2 mature adults or whoever is participating, 2 or more mature people, I think it's a beautiful opportunity to see the creative forces of life, all our nerve endings, and how our organs respond, and how our brain starts to send signals, and how we're feeling changes. Sex is also a great pain reliever.
No, it is. It really is.
Like literally. It's a great pain reliever because of the oxytocin and all the other hormones and chemical reactions that are happening in the body. It's a great stress reliever. And going back to what you said, Sean, I feel like you had a good point when you said, like, if y'all living together or whatever that may look like, because you might not be living together.
Right.
But if you're in an experience where you can be intimate with a person regularly, there is just something so powerful about engaging with that person and walking out the door feeling like a fucking rock star. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all, listen, let's not act brand new. We done already had that person or hope to have that person in our life when they touch us, when they speak to us, when we are physical with them. We're just on 10. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the difference between great sex, trash sex, mediocre sex, and all, and all the in between. Like,
Right.
what's the connection
Right.
with you and that person?
Now, the
Right.
only reason why I brought up the living together part, because, you know, for me, if we living together, we pretty much having sex every day. So, you know, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I can feel like I'm a conquer every day, especially in the morning. Like, when we first wake up, let's go ahead and knock this out and get our day started, because
Yes.
that's going to feel great and we can attack the day. You know what I'm saying? But then we can always wrap it up at night, so now we're going to sleep good. You know what I'm saying? Hey.
I'm with you when you're right. And start the next day off with it. Yeah, I mean,
That's all I'm saying.
I just feel like it sets you up to be on top of the world and conquer it. I'd be like Pinky in the brain. What you doing, Pinky? Conquering the world, taking over the life. I'm trying to tell you.
Somehow, I don't know. I seem to need a little bit more sleep these days. So I don't know about that.
I mean, you know, it depends
Ain't
on what
nobody
time
saying
you
you
gotta be
can't
to
get no
work.
sleep.
You know what I'm saying? Because it depends on what time you gotta be work. We can wake up, get in there, and then go back to sleep. Then get up and go to work.
Right. Well,
Y'all, I'm looking for this movie and I cannot find it. I'm gonna find it and tell y'all what it is next week. But I'm looking for this movie and I cannot find it. But it was a little small looking little black indie film, I think, and it was kind of set in the Hamptons. And he was like a record producer or something, and he was in love with this lady, and he had
15
walked away from her, and she
minutes.
married somebody else, and then they reconnected at this party, and then she got shot or something like that. Like that's the basic premise. But it was the cutest little movie. That aside, there was a moment where this one lady in the movie made that quote, and that has stood out to me since I saw that. Like that's dope and it's deep, and I agree with it. I'm gonna find this movie and tell y'all so y'all can go watch it and support another black movie. But
Right.
as we bring tonight to a close,
It was
what
a
you
good
got?
night.
It was a good night, y'all, and we glad to have our
Good
gypsy
night.
back because it ain't the same without our
Yeah,
boo
but,
kitty.
you know, I've been under the weather, so I can't promise that I'm gonna be 100% in any recent weeks. I mean, any coming weeks, but I'm getting there. So,
Girl, we love you anyway.
yep, I'm getting there. I'm actually
Gee.
on bed rest because I actually wound up in the emergency room this morning. So I did crawl out of bed to come and see y'all because I missed y'all for the last what? We ain't been on for like 3 weeks. Well, we was on, y'all were on last week, but I think we
Yeah.
haven't been on for like 3 weeks. So
Y'all,
so
the name of the movie is G,
Gee, okay.
like the letter G.
Mm-hmm.
And it was made in 2002. I knew I was gonna find it. Like, I know I ain't crazy. It's called G, and it's made in 2000. It's a cute little love story,
Oh,
but
okay.
there is a quote in that movie. If y'all end up hearing it, come back and let me
Oh,
know you heard it.
Oh, so it's loosely based on The Great Gatsby. So I am a Great Gatsby fan. I love F. Scott Fitzgerald. So
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, that was
Hey.
I was like, oh shoot. Wait a minute.
It's a cute little movie. So if y'all get a chance, look it up, find it online and watch it. But as we close, anything else you want to chime in, Sean, before we exit on up out the church doors tonight?
Yeah, I love y'all. You know what I'm saying? And thank you for listening. Thank you for interacting. You know, keep sending us those questions and keep, you know, putting those comments in the chat.
Yep. And then I do want to say this though. If you guys have any friends that are fed or just any friends that work, you never know how their job is impacted by what's going on in the Fed. even if they're not federal, even if they're state or whatever, because this has a trickle down effect. Reach out to them and just, check on your folks, because
Yeah.
we've got, we've got people that are out there, they're hurting, and um, there's a lot of comments about people committing suicide and stuff. So reach out and just let them know they're not alone. I know we had kind of like an intervention for somebody
Mm.
the other day, because she got let go last Thursday, and she said her coworkers or former coworkers made her feel like a pariah. They all, you know,
Oh,
deleted her off of Facebook and stuff like that, just like disconnected because they didn't want to be associated with her and stuff. And
yeah.
she didn't know who to contact to get her paperwork so she could get unemployment and stuff like that. And she was breaking down and was talking about suicide. So make sure you share that number too, that tell people they can call 988, if they, so share the number. 988 is the short code for the suicide hotline. So let people know that they can call the suicide hotline and stuff if you don't feel like you are in a position to talk to them about stuff, right? You don't If you don't feel like you have the capacity, at least point them to someone who can, because this is unprecedented. It doesn't follow any rules or norms.
Yeah.
And yeah, just check on your people.
Oof. If you all need safe space, I know Gypsy, you offered it in the past. I know Mike offered it in the past from Q and Michael that
Yeah.
join us whenever they have a chance. So if you don't know where else to turn to look, again, like Gypsy said, call 988. And if you
Yeah.
need to, send us an email. Ooh,
Woo. Yeah, because you
thank you so much.
you just never know. So I've been reaching out to check on my people, especially
Yeah,
people that live alone or whatever. They know they don't have any family in the area that they live in and stuff. Just
yeah,
call and check on them. You ain't gotta have a long conversation or anything. Just make sure they're okay. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they just want somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. If you guys need to send us the email so that we can connect you with Gypsy or Michael and they can share resources that they know as veterans or as federal
Right.
employee, reach out and shoot us that email. You can send it to sexintimacypower@gmail.com. You can also fill out the form that is always linked in the description information underneath the videos, somewhere around the video, whether you're looking at it on your tablet, phone, or computer, etc. Just click that link or send us an email, and I'll make sure to get it to Gypsy or Mike so that they can share from their expertise or their information that they have available. And if you just need safe space, guys, again, my inbox is open. If you just need a safe space to dump it out, my inbox is open. Our email is open. No judgment, because these are unprecedented times. And we joke a lot. We talk about a lot of different things to hold space and normalize conversations. But one thing we always want you to know is we legitimately care, because it takes a lot to sit in the hot seat and share the things that we share with you all. And we do because we want to promote healing and wellness and mental health and all the things. But
Yeah.
oftentimes, real talk, and we said we were going to record some of it just so that you can see us in action. We sometimes decompress for hours after these episodes just to hold space for one another, because it's hard to be that vulnerable and share things about yourself and put yourself on display for people, right? And so we're going to go now because I want to make sure that we can hold space with Gypsy and just be safe with her for a while, because we love her and she's our boo. But again, if you need help, reach out in whatever ways make sense, and know that we will do our best to put you on the right path with whatever we can help connect you to.
Yeah.
We love each and every single one of you, and know that even though it's crazy out there in the world, you are not navigating it by yourself. You got people
You are
like
not.
us, so many people that you may have never even met before that are probably praying for you and speaking life into you and holding space for you. and just weathering this at the same time, right? We never know what a person is going through behind the scenes, even if they're smiling or laughing or looking okay.
Right.
Sure, I see your comment, so I want to call it out before we leave. You said that concept was brought up also in the updated version of the Da Vinci Code, the rituals of the Scion. What concept? Not sure what you mean. So give us more context in the comments, and then we'll circle back to that next week. But for now, we are going to go, and we love you guys. All right.
All right. See you guys.